And welcome back into the Sports Edge here on 590 The Fan, KFNS, and KFNS.com. Of course, everyone in St. Louis excited about the 1,000th episode of Monday Night Raw coming to the Scott Trade on Monday night. And to talk about that and some other great issues is the WWE Hall of Famer, Jim Ross. Jim, it is a pleasure to have you on the show and welcome. And I know that things have to be just gearing up and getting ready for Monday night.
We're very excited, Jeff, to come back to St. Louis and kind of beginning a new era there. We went through the Attitude Era, now we're going to launch the 3-hour era of Monday Night Raw. And there's absolutely no better city, and I'm not saying that to kiss up to you, than St. Louis to get us started with all the heritage and the history of wrestling in St. Louis. So we're jacked. We're ready to go.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I'm sure you're not in on these discussions, of course, but St. Louis has gotten some big events lately. Recently a Royal Rumble, and have had several big pay-per-views. But quite an honor to be selected for this process. I'm sure some of it's logistical, but a lot of it has to be because I'll go down saying this is one of the best places in the country to watch wrestling.
Absolutely, I agree. And logistics does have a role. Building availability obviously has a role, but you want to go back, you pick out those cities that would be on your short list, and St. Louis is definitely at the top of the short list. But from the days of Sam Muchnick and Wrestling at the Chase and the Kiel Auditorium and all those historic venues and eras, St. Louis is right there with any city in America, without question.
And before I forget, I announce for a local promotion once a month just to have fun doing it, and the booker is your old friend, Larry Matisic. He said to pass along a hello and well wishes.
Oh, he's a great guy, and I've enjoyed reading Larry's books, and Larry was a big part of that heritage there, working side by side with Sam Muchnick back in the NWA days. So they contributed immensely to the fabric of our business, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're back in St. Louis on Monday night.
Jim, I've been asked this from time to time. Just I have no problem admitting I'm just a huge mark for wrestling. I've always enjoyed it, and I've really come to enjoy the business side of it. And people ask, well, what does St. Louis with this heritage have to do to get an event like a WrestleMania? And I know obviously when big anniversary ones come up, they like to go to the bigger cities on the coast and whatnot. But I'm hoping one day St. Louis is able to get one with the large stadium we have, and of course, being in the Midwest, you can draw from a lot of different people. Hopefully someday St. Louis will get one of these.
Well, you've got the arena that would be compatible. You've got the geographic location being somewhat centrally located in the United States. Travel into St. Louis is not problematic. So, I don't know. I know that they plan quite a far ahead, much like a Super Bowl, for events like WrestleMania. But I would be shocked, to be honest with you, if St. Louis wasn't a WrestleMania city at some point in the future. I really would. I think it will happen. I just don't know when, but I think it's very likely. And I think the Dome is obviously you're looking at big arenas, and that Dome would be perfect there in St. Louis. Maybe we get Sam Bradford to come out and do something.
The Hall of Famer Jim Ross is with us here on 590 The Fan, KFNS, and KFNS.com. Of course, Monday Night Raw, the 1,000th episode, coming to St. Louis on Monday at the Scott Trade Center. It's going to be an unbelievable card as the show goes to 3 hours, beginning at 7 o'clock St. Louis time. The Rock and DX, the return of them. A number of Hall of Famers will be there. I know, Jim, you're planning to be there as well, so it should be a fantastic night. Already the advertised card, the advertised guys that will be there, Brock Lesnar and The Rock, and The Undertaker, all these guys, it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to actually, the surprise element and how they fit it into a 3-hour show.
I think you bring up a very good point. I've said on one of my blogs recently, I said there's so many anticipated stars scheduled to return. How do you do them justice, even in a 3-hour broadcast? So I think this show is going to be loaded, and I'm very curious, as are you, as a fan, because I'm still a fan, as to the surprise elements that are going to be utilized on Monday. To me, it's like a big celebration. It's like homecoming or something along those lines. It's just, for me to be able to be a part of this event in whatever role I'm going to fulfill is a real honor. But, earlier in the day, when you can engage a lot of the guys that I recruited and signed and guys friends and guys that are my peers, that's going to be a real rewarding situation because, I'm a kind of guy that I don't take tomorrow for granted. Tomorrows are not guaranteed, so Monday is going to be really special to me for so many reasons, just not only professionally but personally as well.
Jim, you've done so many different things in wrestling, of course, well known for your unbelievable job as an announcer, and in my estimation will always be the best voice in any professional wrestling circle. But a lot of people don't know that you were involved, like you said, with the talent and signing and recruiting individuals to go into the world of sports entertainment. Do you miss some of those elements, or are you enjoying what you're doing now, which is working with a lot of the developmental talent?
Well, I'm kind of back full circle on that because one of the most rewarding parts of my talent relations job certainly was not letting people know that they didn't make the team, and it's kind of like it's a functionality of much like the Rams. They're going to bring 100 guys to camp probably, and 53 are going to make the team.
Yeah,
easy to do the math, so that's not an enjoyable day. But what is enjoyable is helping facilitate the opportunities for these guys to live their dreams and earn a good living and provide for their families. So that was great for me. And now I'm back working as a consultant in talent development, and I'm back working with these young kids, doing some scouting and doing some recruiting and some mentoring. And hopefully we're going to do a good enough job that the next wave of major WWE stars are going to come out of our program. So it's kind of full circle. I don't miss the day-to-day grind in the office or the 51 weeks a year of travel that I did for decades, but not that I regret doing any of it. But, I'm 60 years old, and my pace has slowed a little bit, but I'm still loving what I do, and it's extremely rewarding. These kids are so enthusiastic, and they're so bright-eyed, and they really want to be they want to live their dream. They grew up watching Raw like so many in their generation, and to have the opportunity to perhaps make that roster and get on that show is big for them. It's like going to the Super Bowl, and tonight, or Monday night, is going to be a Super Bowl-like environment for our business.
I always tell Larry, I wish they had a developmental for announcers, because I'd like to try that.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I've been approached several times to do an announcing school, but the thing that I'm remiss and why I don't do it is there are just so few jobs.
Yeah.
You'd have probably 50 times more applicants and students than you would jobs for them to go use their skills. So, but I'm with you. That's the thing that we got to develop too, and we're doing that in developmental with some young broadcasters that hopefully will have the chance to sit in that chair on Monday nights like I got to for so many years and do their thing.
Jim, before we let you go, I've always wanted to ask you, as you've been around the business for, from seeing it from the territory days to the day, to the way it is now, with basically one main powerhouse and a couple ancillary shows that do, TNA and Ring of Honor and such. What do you think is the best thing about wrestling today as we sit here today? And what do you think is something that's just happened recently, a trend that's been maybe not detrimental, but you long for days of the past?
Well, I think the one thing that I can say about today's business in WWE, because that's what I know, is that the athletes today have the opportunity to make so much more money than their predecessors. And sometimes, and I'm an old school guy, sometimes arguably they're making more money than some of their more talented predecessors. I think that the lack of territories where guys could go off Broadway, so to speak, and develop their game and their skill set is missing, and I wish that were not that way. But we're trying to incorporate a lot of the old territory teachings and philosophies in the developmental area where we're having these kids have a lot of live events, and the crowds may be small, but you learn best when you're competing and performing in front of a paying audience. So I miss the territories. I understand why they're not around, but so we're trying to use some of their principles that we're so successful in our developmental area. But the bottom line is much like the NFL now. You go back and ask a guy like Larry Wilson or Dan Deerdorf, had you rather play back in your generation or play today? And I would venture to say that most old-time football players would say, well, heck, I'd rather play today. They're making more money.
Yeah.
So I think bottom line, as far as being able to get in and have a good run and make good money if you're smart, taking care of it, the careers may not be as long, but they're magnified because of the earnings. And if guys are smart, they can seemingly retire at a relatively early age and do it comfortably if they handle their money, and not unlike, we read it all the time about NFL guys or NBA guys or actors, whatever it may be, just making big money and thinking those paydays never end, and then they end up at the end of the day with not a lot to show for it. So we're teaching that, too, to these younger kids, financial planning and basic economics. In other words, you can't spend more than you make. And so that program is using some of those old principles that I think Sam Mushnick and others would be proud of as far as the mentoring to these young kids. So we're trying to bring some of the old world back into this day and time. It's challenging because kids are different now than they were in the previous generations. But we're doing our best.
Jim, I know you're a huge Oklahoma booster and fan. You think our Sam Bradford's going to get things turned around under Coach Fisher?
Well, absolutely. I am very optimistic about the Rams. I think Jeff Fisher is a proven commodity. I think, and I don't know what the timetable is. He's not the kind of guy that says, well, we want to be good in 3 years. He wants to be good now. I like that attitude. I've known Sam Bradford since he was a senior in high school. I know his parents. I saw every game he ever played at Oklahoma, home and away. I know what kind of human being he is, and I know that Sam was not healthy last year. I didn't have the mobility that he needed to negotiate the pocket when sometimes the offensive line wasn't as crisp as they should have been or would like to have been. But I can tell you from a human being standpoint, a cerebral standpoint, character, and a big time arm, that Sam Bradford is the real deal. He's just got to have some more pieces to that puzzle put around him, and I think the combination he and Coach Fisher will eventually are going to have a football team that the Rams and the fans in St. Louis are going to be extremely excited about.
Well, JR's barbecue sauce and his beef jerky available at WWE Shop Zone. Is it WWEshop.com?
Yes, WWEshop.com.
Shop.com. And then, of course, limited tickets. I know this baby is about close to sell out, but very limited tickets available at the Scott Trade Center for Monday night. It's the 1,000th episode of Raw coming to St. Louis. Jim, it is an absolute pleasure. I could go on and on with you. I know your time is short, but thank you so much for it, and we really look forward to having you a part of this great event coming up Monday in St. Louis.
It's going to be awesome, and the two things to remember is that on the day of the event, sometimes after the production is set in and the camera placement's done, a few tickets trickle out to the box office. So I would encourage fans that don't have tickets that want to be a part of this historic event in St. Louis on Monday to check back with the box office as the weekend moves through, and especially on Monday, and they might get lucky and be surprised at what might be available. It's going to be packed, and maybe we can talk again during football season.
That would be great, Jim. I would absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet, buddy. Have a great day.
That's Jim Ross, and we'll be back with more on 590 The Fan, KFNS, and KFNS.com.